we'd like to sincerely thank our Patreon supporters.
What's going on, everyone? It's a couple days after the storm, and, you know, had that habit of checking in on the weather. Cold weather is just a couple days out. Yeah. I mean, right after the storm, we noticed, wow, the temperature has dropped. And then I started looking like for the week's forecast. 3 days after the hurricane, or 4 days or whatever, 62 degrees for a low at night. So, it means that it's time for
put the flaps back on.
and it's something that I really don't look forward to.
No, because it makes the animals go and hide again.
Yeah. So where right now you can walk into an enclosure and they see you walk in and they come right out and interact, you're gonna go back to all of the lizards hiding. And I really do dislike that time. But let's see, we could probably go in Bumblebees. I don't know where he's at. We've had people over here for the last 2 days, so a lot going on. We're probably gonna have to do waters at the same time, weed whack today, and then feed. So here's gonna be a problem. We could take what we already have made and lay it. All right, so yeah, so Bumblebee's laying in the shade in the corner right now, so he's out of the way. We're gonna have to re-stand up his tree and try and maybe strap it and find a way to keep that up for a little bit. The lid has to come off of his hide box. And the second problem is, you know, they're all intended to have 2 heat pads, but some don't have any right now because we started building some enclosures during the summer. They don't have heat pads, so we're gonna have to go through and see which ones have 2 and which ones have 1 and which ones have none. Starting to sound like Dr. Seuss. And then we're gonna see how many we already have the flaps for and set those out. So we're gonna have to make a whole bunch of flaps. I bought some extra lumber. I have the pond liner material. Oh my God, you see what I'm looking at right here? We just took the shade cloth off for the storm. And I have not seen this algae growth since before we put it up. Yeah. So that's what we get on these hot sunny days with no shade cloth. That's a result of that. I haven't seen that in quite a long time. It's not gonna be a problem for very long. We're gonna have a lot more cloudy, cool days, overcast days and stuff and such. I have a solution for, you know, we want the boxes sealed. The flaps, there's a flap, an airspace, and another flap. And so it's creating almost like insulation. I can show you. There is, I mean, well, it should be 3/4 of an inch, but obviously the flaps will lay. And then of course, if one of the flaps on this side doesn't close perfect, the flaps on that side should. And you see where I have 3 flaps there, 4. So even the openings shouldn't line up with each other. I can install this directly onto the box. I think I have some boxes sitting here. Might actually be good for an example. It doesn't matter what is the top and what is the bottom. So let's just flop that over. I could just screw them in from the outside and they'll do everything that they're intended to do that way. Technically, I designed them to go from the other way. It looks better, but it's gonna function the same either way, technically. But I did also want to take the lids off of every enclosure because I put them on without, if you want to call them cup washers or recessed washers. Every time you tighten that screw, it sinks a little bit further down into that plywood. That is, if you guys are seeing those, that's a recessed washer. So I'll be able to tighten those screws on that lid without them sinking into the plywood. They'll stay up top. And then the sand isn't gonna fill the where the bit has to go on the top of that screw head as much, since it'll be raised up. So if I have to steal heat mats from any of those, we're gonna have to, Kagan, could you do me the honors and open up one of those bags, please? I opened up this one, but I know what I need is in there. Some batten rod. So it's just round foam tubing. So if we look at this enclosure from the top, or this hide box from the top, there is an opening for one cord that would be the bottom heat mat. And then this other opening is for the top heat mat. Well, if one had both mats and now it's only gonna have one, there's a big hole that the cold air can come in. So when I take that lid off, I could put a 1 inch, 1.5 inch section of this batten rod in that hole and then retighten the lid, and that will seal it up. It's not insanely sealed, but I don't wanna leave a 1/2 inch round hole for cold air to leak into the box. What's the point of it if it's not sealed? It costs $4 and it'll stop the cold air from pouring in or the warm air from pouring out the top. Really, the heat is gonna rise and fill that box. So if you have a hole on the top, the heat's just rising and leaving the box. So that's one thing. Now another thing is any female that has a lay box but is not using the lay box, we wanna remove the lid and set it aside. Now if she starts digging sometime during the winter and she needs that lay box, then we can address that female and know that we're gonna pay special attention to her if we need to close off her lay box at night or something such as that to keep the heat in. There is heat in there because there is the heat mat in the lay box. So we can close her in there, or, well, and they're slatted. You know, I kind of discussed this last year. We may go away from slatted roofs and just put plywood roofs on them. I mean, we already have, which I don't really care for. Let's see, Sunny's not out. And she may be in her lay box. I don't know where Sunny's at right now.
Usually behind your water.
Yeah, she did a number on that poor plant. I don't know if she's in there. Let's see. Oh, she's in her lay box right now. Looks like she's digging into the corner. But this is slatted, and so this will let heat out. And I don't really love the idea of this being plywood. This kind of looks nicer, but we could put plywood as the lid and put that on top of the plywood and still have that look. At least have the top sealed. Obviously the front's not crazy sealed, and that should be packed more with dirt. Less airspace is easier to warm, especially for one heat mat. We are gonna have to have 2 heat mats on every box. At a certain temperature, I will turn the secondary one on. That'll buy us some time because I don't think it's gonna get into that temperature for a couple months. At least 2 months. We should only bounce into like the 60s and possibly 50s early into winter for us here in Florida. So that gives me some time to order the additional heat mats and come back and add the other heat mats. We're gonna start by setting out the flaps that we have and then taking note on which ones have 2 and which ones have 1. And we'll figure that out and we'll go from there. All right, in Bumblebee's enclosure, I removed his lid. You can see the lower heat mat and the upper heat mat. And I have now screwed the flaps. This one had to be done from the inside because this was probably one of the early styles, and the vinyls, both of them don't fit in the opening or the pond liner. So it had to be installed that way. But it seems to move good. I have to check that as I do each one. You see this one catches a little bit. Can always go back and trim them and make sure they move freely. And this time they'll get labeled like 1-1 and do it that way. I think I put names, but then animals got moved and all that stuff. So I would like them all to fit more. Oh, look at this. So this one I drilled both sides. So I'm gonna put a piece of that batten right there. And then when I put the screws back, I'll put those little recessed washers on there and the screws won't be buried inside the wood. I've got the first one done, and now you can see the screw heads aren't going to sink down in that plywood, and I'll be able to keep opening and reopening this lid, and it's going to be fine. If you don't use those, the screw heads are going to keep getting deeper and to a point where it's so buried, so packed with dirt and debris that you're going to strip out the screw head, or it's not going to grab any significant amount of the plywood and have any strength. So we're working on the enclosure, and Kagan's like, man, it's really smelling out here. We fed before the storm. That's regurgitated chicken. So Bumblebee threw up his meal, and we're noticing a lot of the lizards did, because You know, this is part of the risk of keeping outdoors. You do a feeding, you got your scheduled day. If the weather's not optimal for them to digest their meals, you're gonna have a bunch of animals with food rotting in their belly, and they're gonna throw it up. It's a financial waste for us, and it's a whole energy waste for the animal. They tried to process that food to a point where they couldn't. So got to pay attention to stuff like that. We're going to look at the weather report and know that we have a sunny day, and I think tomorrow morning we're going to hit them with rodents. That way we can get them a little fat on them, especially before winter. We know we're going to come onto leaner times, less feedings. While I'm talking, I'm looking at the top of this Thai plant. Look at these frogs just packed in there.
That's where they were when I planted it too.
That's funny. So while I'm here, I'm gonna weed whack this cage, knock the grass down. Kagan's gonna fix that plant, and then we're gonna do the water on our way out, because it's gonna make a wet mess of the enclosure later on this season. Look at safety glasses. Yeah, if you guys notice, my eye is finally better. So yeah, I'll put safety glasses on, weed whack the enclosure, and move on to the next. There's a whole bunch of them to do. You guys can see Bumblebee's enclosure totally done, clean water. He's already found his hide box with the flaps. That's how quick he ran for that super secure hide spot.
And his tree is fixed.
And his tree is fixed. Well, we've done a couple of them. It started pouring on us rain. Kagan jumped on the weed whacker. I jumped on the lawnmower and started cutting the grass out there. And because I don't know what it is about new power tools, all the brushless motors hate getting wet, and I can't afford to replace a drill just because I worked in the drizzle. Now I think it's a light enough drizzle that I can get back to it. I really need to get these done today, so I'm gonna quit talking and get back to it. It's getting late in the afternoon. We have almost all of them done, but I think we're so tired and smell so bad that yeah, I think we have the flaps for one more box to do, but everything in row 3 doesn't have the electrical boxes, and that means I would have to make extension cord jumpers for all of them, which I hate doing. So I think I'm gonna play hooky from work. Actually, I'll call my friend, see if I can put off till Wednesday, and because of the cold snap, tomorrow night get that last box done and then finish the electrical for this row. If we can get all the way to the end of this row, then we could run an extension cord just to get power to Miko over there, and that's just one extension cord. And actually, well, it'll be 2, because we'll pull one to Miko with a 3-way and a low wattage red light bulb at the end of the line, letting us know that all the heat mats have power all the way to the end of the line. It's a good indicator. If you wake up in the middle of the night, I can see. Now, it doesn't tell you if a heat mat burnt out. I've never had that happen. I'm sure it's going to happen. And we'll probably have to check them regularly. One of the things we will do this season is use some better, what is it, the thermometer that we can monitor from inside the house? Sensor push, and know what temperature certain boxes are, so we know if we need to kick on the second one, instead of guessing. Eliminate some of that guesswork. That's it for today. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning. It's the next day, and I'm in the rock monitor hallway. Row 3 is the one we're working on. You see how we have our electric ran to the box. Onyx is in the other enclosure. He won't try to run up and eat my feet. Each one of these hide boxes has a lower heat mat and an upper heat mat. That outlet, that one represents the upper heat mat. That one represents the lower. Lizards can't get to them. They're screwed to the other ones, but this is not in gray pipe. This extension cord is not what's supposed to be wired here. So we need to get the gray pipe run to the next outlet, so on and so forth, to finish up this row. And I'll show you my Wi-Fi outlets. So the power will come into this box right there. Although now I think it will go overhead to a main junction box, which will run to the disconnect. We have a large breaker box for the shop area that should power the whole backyard. So that will come in and power these switches. Right now we're doing it via extension cord. I have that wired up. The power is going to come in and it powers these Wi-Fi switches, and those I can control by my phone. I think those are TP-Link or CASA switches, and I could turn them on and off as I desire. I could have them probably controlled with a thermostat. I'm sure there's different ways to do it. Right now I just have them by my phone. I have the gray pipe, had a couple lengths laid out, so I know that I have enough pipe for what we're doing today. I just need to make sure that I have enough of the boxes and enough of the waterproof boxes for the cords to go into. It would be a little cheaper to get one that is not clear, but using the clear one, I could see which cord is plugged in. It'll help me sight them as I'm walking down the hallway. So I'll just stick with that since I started. From the end of the hallway, it would go to a vinyl jumper that would go over. Oh, look, the sulfur female that was in her lay box yesterday is out trying to get some sun before she goes in there. It would jump over this doorway and over here for this lay box. We may stop it there and just run a diagonal extension cord all the way over to Miko for the time being, but that would be one of the next projects, is running row 4, maybe as we start doing some more of the enclosures. You know, one of the next videos, or one of the next videos coming up, will be getting these two done, getting this really built out for Miko, this being an expansion for that female white throat. But this will be the fun part, putting enough branches that, you know, Miko really deserves in his enclosures. And the albinos in the front of this row. Oh, I just felt some cool air. So it's coming. I'm gonna quit talking, make my Home Depot list, and get out of here so I can get here and get back to work. We're running the wires. We've got almost all of the gray pipe and boxes done, and Kagan is starting to run the wires. I know there's going to be an electrician out there saying, why are you using shielded wire inside of the gray pipe? Because I already own it, and most of the wire we're using was removed from row 3 at the previous property. Wire is stinking expensive. I just used what was cheaper. So some of the other boxes all the way to the end. In the end, that outlet will just be wired to a plug with the female end just dangling out of this for the moment. And I'll be able to take this all one apart later when I'm ready to do the flex conduit shooting over to that row to finish that row. For right now, we just got to get this done tonight. And I thought I only had one heat flap to do, and I realized the white throats don't have theirs. Onyx's box needs to be done. So there are 2 that I need to do. A lot of work, not a lot of time. I'm gonna quit talking and get back to it. Sound like a plan? Oh, wasp spray.
You pointed at me and said wasp.
Yeah, there's a wasp nest next to where I'm working. Wasp spray and some waters.
Okay.
That would be awesome. Yeah. The sun is about to set over the trees, so we're about to lose daylight. We just finished the electrical. We got Miko, who is the last in line. We verified that his heat pad is working. I technically still have those 2 flaps to do. Onyx will stay with the board over his entry. Now it's only 62 for the low tonight. If that was a water monitor and I had that hole, I would be concerned. But it's a rock monitor, and they're definitely a lot more cold tolerant. And especially a big animal like Onyx, who was out sunning himself all day. We are gonna seal up the young white throats a little better. We have 2 boards, so we'll be able to seal up their entry. So I think that's the last thing we're gonna do out here, and then pick up tools. I'll finish those last 2 flaps tomorrow morning. I mean, tonight we're gonna have to come out here, and I still see a lot of animals on their shelves, like Alexander, he's sleeping on his shelf. there's a lot of animals we're gonna have to come out here either just after dinner or just before dinner and carry into their boxes. We may even try that right now. I might go and get a pair of gloves on and just go around and carry some animals and see if they won't go inside and stay there, especially when they feel that heat pad fired up. Usually, once they feel that, they want to stay in there. Let me get the screw gun for Kagan. Another long day, you know, and we would have finished today, but we went to Home Depot to get the electrical boxes and their covers. So there's
Tundra.
Tundra.
Hey, Tundra. What's that, girl? Your heat pad's on.
Is he already in there?
He is already in there.
Oh yeah, so he's probably already like, ah. And he's interested because of, watch that tail. I'm gonna have to put you guys down to help her. We're in the water monitor row. Kagan is about to grab Conan. And I see this is the problem, is winter really poses a problem. She has to pull the water out and get to Conan, and he isn't gonna wanna be picked up because one, the water tub's kind of gonna be aggravating for him. And so she has to grab him, unfortunately, slightly forced, which we hate to do because it definitely stresses the animal and it takes a little bit of that taming it away. But it's unfortunately something you have to do during winter. So now here's another example of something different. Now, it's not gonna be so cold tonight that I'm worried about this. If it was getting into the 50s or colder, I would board this up. But we checked, and the female is way deep in a tunnel to lay eggs. One of the young sulfur females. And so what we did is we plugged the lay box heat pad in. It wasn't plugged in. This is not a fertilized clutch. Now it should have been plugged in anyway. That's just how behind we are with the storms and everything else. So she is gonna have heat in there, and she's deep in a tunnel. If it was colder, I would board up the entry, but I'm not gonna do that because I don't feel like it's that bad. I actually felt the earth at the entrance, and it's holding a lot of the heat from the previous days. I think she's gonna be fine. And now we're checking in on Raven. Kagan is checking behind the waters to eliminate that. She's in her box. So she is deep in a tunnel in her lay box. So what we'll do is the same thing as on the other side. We're gonna plug her lay box in. Thank you, Kagan. To the top plug, which I just turned on. Easier without gloves, but she's got the gloves because she's been handling the animals and shoving that back. Now, this is another situation, is that normally I have probably a couple weeks of 70-degree nights. Knowing that fall is here, we start having those cooler nights, and I would have done this before then, and these animals learn to look forward to that heat mat. We are absolutely missing that this year. So it's gonna be quite a few nights of checking. Now you see how the water tubs pose a problem. We have to check behind the water tubs, not behind the logs. See, all this little habitat that you create is stuff you have to check. We're good. That animal's already in its hide box. When I say that animal, who's in there?
Drago.
Drago.
New name pending.
New name pending. We didn't get a lot of name suggestions on that video. So now, lay box or hide box?
Gypsy, hey girl.
Now she is not laying eggs, right? Whoa. She's got it kind of dug up, but kind of filled back in. I don't know what happened with you, Gyps. Plug that sucker in. Now, normally I would set those hide boxes on a timer. I may leave them on for 24 hours for a couple days so the animals learn, oh wow, there's heat in here, and start spending some more time in there. It'll help them learn it a little faster. And you see Kagan's checking above the doorways. And I know Alexander's out, so he's gonna be an easy one. I think Diesel's already away. He's gonna be an easy one. Because he almost never leaves his hide box now that he has his flaps. Look at Alexander. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? It's so cool out.
Oh, you big baby. Oh, you big baby. He smells all those other lizards on that glove. He's like, what in the world have you been doing today?
Oh, I'll help you. Got a little bit of tail stuck in there.
I think his claws are hooked underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Buddy, come on. Check it out. Your heat pads are on, mister.
He's not used to the entrance. Some of them, it looks like a solid wall to them.
Feel how warm it is in there? I can feel how warm it is in there. It's like, I'd rather sniff you. Oh. Scoop.
Now, just because it's 6:30-ish and we're putting all the animals away, it doesn't mean that we're going to take for granted that they're away for the rest of the night. We will probably after dinner time do another walkthrough with the spotlight and check all the animals once again. All right, we're going to keep working our way down the row, and I'll show you if there's anything exciting. I'm walking through the next morning, and absolutely everybody is out on their shelves sunning themselves. I hear a couple running to go hide. Even Diesel was out. Oh, sorry, buddy. The flaps throw them off initially. Yeah, he found it. Sulfurs are all out. Females already in the water. Out on the screen. Out on the screen. Everybody is getting that first bit of sunshine. And we'll go check on the rock monitors, but we also have to let Onyx out of his box and the young whitethroats out of their box. We did walk back out to check on Miko. Well, we checked on everybody, but our concern was Miko. If you guys remember, that's how I ended up losing my last black roughneck, was to a cold night. It went into its hide box. I made sure it was away. Then it walked out on its own. And yeah, maybe something, you know, certain traits are species. I already see tongues popping out. I'll set you guys up as a tripod. You guys could see the tongue is popping out there. The male's already, he's ready to come out. There you go, buddy. Ready to come out and explore. We'll let Onyx out, then I can take their food out and get it thawing. He's not rushing out because he does have that heat still on that heat pad. You open the door and she's coming right in. Sometimes they need to see where the door is. Come on, girl. Come on. As soon as he sees you, he's gonna run on over. Come on. I'll show you guys that interaction in just 1 minute. Immediate from Onyx was some head twitching. I know that plant is in the way, guys. I'm sorry about that. This is a black throat introduction. Of course, a lot of tongue flicking. Now he was trying to dig through the screen to get at her yesterday. He really wanted to be with her. She's gonna walk past him, so he's gonna have to walk out after her. I don't think he wants to leave his heat, Matt. You cannot be that lazy. He's got to move his butt. He's thinking about it. Oh, look, she's actually hunting worms. That's what she's doing right now. Here he comes. He's smelling the ground where she was at. He's eyeballing me if I got any food for him. We'll let the two get situated. She is trying to scratch that shed off of her face. Pretty funny. We'll check back in on him. I need to cut the material to do those flaps on those hide boxes. This actually worked out perfect because Onyx and Sapphire moved into her enclosure to get sun, excuse me. So I was able to close the door because I need to really pull this lid off and build it from the back side. I'll get you guys pictures of the different steps as we go. Perfect example of why I want to use those cup washers on the top. This screw and this screw were sunk down so far that they're corroded, have sand built up, and the bit couldn't grab them to reverse them out. So I'm gonna have to put some vice grips on those, remove those, and you can see the heat mat is on, it's working. It's perfect amount of warmth for them. And now I can build everything from the back side. I have the back piece screwed on, and then I stapled the first row of rubber onto that piece, and then I trimmed it with those shears to make sure that it moved freely. I need them to go and seal on the sides, so I trim the sides, the bottoms. That one's just about rubbing, but there's a little dirt there. It's got right there. So I make sure that I got a good seal. Now the sun will help this hang better in just a little while, right? This is still cold material. Once the sun warms it up, it's gonna hang more freely. But that's all closing pretty good. And then I'll get the top put on and we'll be done with this one. The white throats were being a little feisty, so I got them both into the transfer boxes. So then I can work in this small enclosure without animals all over me. And they're ready to eat. So they're like extra excited. So I'm gonna do the same to this hide box. And then maybe you guys can join me for a quick feeding. The last box is done. And now I can simply open transfer boxes. And they can crawl out on their own accord. I think I have 2 or 3 more waters to do that I didn't finish yesterday on this row. I'm gonna do those waters, stop for lunch, and then we're gonna feed the animals. Okay, it's feeding time, so let's get some food to some of these guys. I think the biggest indicator if they're happy or they gotta chill or whatever is whether or not they're ready to eat. There we go, Miko. All right. Little rat from Miko. He's always fun to watch eat. What do we have for Onyx? Oh gosh, we have a big old squirrel. There you go, big boy. We'll let him get that down. We'll go see if Sapphire wants to eat. This is the first time I've been able to feed with nothing but our own quail, other than the rats and the squirrels. But I mean, we've always had to get quail from someone else. Blake has helped us out. Adam and Shannon have helped us out. My buddy Brandon has helped us out. Oh, I think she's in there. Come on, girl. Okay. There you go. That's a good meal for her. She's going through a good shed. She's gonna really look good in a couple days. Going into Frosty and Pebbles enclosure. She's been something else lately. Well, that's the slowest I've ever seen Frosty eat. If he eats less than her this go around, I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna hang those 2 out. That'll give him an opportunity to get to them. She's got some crayfish left in her tray for her to eat next. I tell you what, the demurrals made short work of those. Huh? She's not into them. Now this is gonna be a bit of a challenge. Glacier and Tundra gobbled up their food. Now, as far as like Frosty being a little slow to eat, and you know he's a very socialized monitor, a whole bunch of them ate a big meal before the storm, and it sat in their belly, and a lot of them regurgitated their food. So maybe he didn't, and he struggled through it, and he's got about a bit of an upset stomach or something along those lines. I'm not worried about it. If he doesn't eat an egg or something in a couple days, then I'll maybe be concerned. An individual being a little slow to eat every once in a while is pretty stinking normal. This would be cool to get, oh gosh, what's her name again? Total brain fart. In editing, I better remember her name. Hey girl. There you go. Beautiful. That'll be a nice heavy meal for you. And it'll keep her busy for quite a while getting it down. Can't remember if Alexander is a big fan of quail or not. He's a fan of making a mess of his enclosure, I'll tell you what. There we go. He was ready for a good meal. If they ate quail more often, they would probably be better at it. Let's see what Sophia is doing. Oh, she's already grabbed it. Female guru. No problem. All right, Pinks. Oop. She has been digging to lay. So that's what that... She was going to walk past that quail to walk out. That's why I just had that weird interaction right there. She may not eat. She's close to laying some unfertilized eggs. But I do know who will. And that's Lily. Just laid a clutch of eggs. Woo! There you go, girl. She will make short work of that. And let's see what Bumblebee does. I'm looking around while I'm talking to you guys. I'm trying to put my eyes on the whole enclosure. When you go into these larger ones where the males are, there are more hiding spots. Looks like he's in his hide box. Well, what I see is a lot of monitors, because I left the heat pad on in the hide box, are just staying in their boxes. But I want them to learn that that heat is there. This is always a process in the beginning. You have to make them love that box so you don't have to pick up every monitor. Oh, she's in her water. There you go. Now that is not like Ivy. There you go. I'm gonna call it here, guys. I think we met the deadline. We kept everyone from getting cold the first cold night. Seems like just about everyone has eaten. I got a couple to look after. We've got the last surf ski race league this evening for the year, and the after party as we're talking. Diesel is grabbing his quail right at the entrance. He's tongue flicking it. He's about to pull it into the box. So he was one of the ones we were talking about. But we'll finish it right here, guys. Next up is gonna be finishing those other enclosures and a couple more videos, and we're gonna have those albinos outside, so that'll be exciting. All right, guys, until next time.